minutes that you can give us, so we will be as quick as you can. Also, people I'm sure will be very familiar with Thunderfoot. And before we jump into it, although I do have to say one thing, this is obviously in support of Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders. We are looking for donations, and if you look above the video box, you will see a number of active links: PayPal, First Giving, eBay, Just Giving, Chip In, and also the schedule. If you click on one of those, it will open up in a separate box. You will not lose your place in the room. You will not you will not miss any of the show. So please give as generously as you can. Richard, there are about 35 people involved in this event, and without exception, I was going to say almost without exception, but it was without exception, everyone who was asked agreed to participate. There seems to be a natural human condition of altruism and charitable work, which some may seem runs contrary to evolution or the theory of evolution. What are your comments on that? Why are people altruistic, and why are people so willing to do charitable work?
Yes, that at first sight appears to be a slightly difficult question. And my first book, The Selfish Gene, could in a way have been called The Altruistic Individual, because my aim was to explain how selfish genes, which is the sort of bedrock of Darwinian theory, can give rise to altruistic organisms. And the theory has various levels of sophistication. At the bottom level, genes can cause individuals to work for their own kin or other individuals who might reciprocate a favor. So both those could be seen as kind of selfishness in disguise. And when you get on to more, what shall we say, more genuine altruism, more sort of human type altruism, such as giving money to charity, you have to explain it, I think, in a sort of only half Darwinian way. And my way would be to say that it's a kind of byproduct of those primitive motives to altruism, namely kin and reciprocation. One way to put it is that our ancestors were naturally selected in an environment where they lived in small bands or villages, like baboons do today a bit. And so everybody that you ever met would be quite likely to be kin, and quite likely to be an individual who would be in a position to do a favor to you later on. So the rule of thumb that got built into the brain would have been, be good to everyone you meet. There's no reason why natural selection should, so to speak, have a kind of cognitive awareness of exactly why the animal is doing what it does. Rather, a rule of thumb, a brain rule, gets favored by natural selection, and in this case, be nice to everybody would have been favored. We have empathy, we have sympathy, we have a tendency to feel sad when we see another person being sad. But if we see a crying child, we want to go and comfort the child. We can't bear suffering. Most of us can't. I mean, there are psychopaths who don't mind that. But I think this is a kind of built-in rule of thumb, a bit like sexual lust, because sexual lust, after all, still is very strong in us, even though we may, if we're female, we may be on the pill, we may know that there's no chance of begetting a child if we're male. Nevertheless, we still have lust. And it's a similar thing. We have a lust to be nice, a lust to be good, a lust to be sympathetic, that is still there, even though we're now living in a time and place where the original Darwinian motivation to be nice and good may have been superseded.
You referred there to your, I think it was first book, The Selfish Gene. And if I recall correctly at the time, there were some people, whether deliberately or not, misunderstood your message. And I remember, am I right to say that there were times when you were getting blamed for Thatcherism and Yuppieism and the views of Arthur Scargill? Tell us what the misunderstanding was and how you got this reputation.
Well, a lot of the misunderstanding came from people who read the book by title only. And they, as I've put it before, they neglected to read the rather substantial footnote to the title, which is the book itself. The particular reference to the justifying Thatcherism, that was a left-wing intellectual scientist called Stephen Rose, who blamed John Maynard Smith, the great Sussex biologist, and me for, not exactly for Mrs. Thatcher, but for sort of creating a scientific climate in which Thatcherism could thrive. As Maynard Smith said, what should we have done? Falsified the equations? Actually, it's something that I've always emphasized, that Darwinian natural selection is definitely not a normative idea, is definitely not something that we should base our morals upon. Quite the contrary. We should, and actually I said this in The Selfish Gene, we should learn Darwinism so as to avoid basing our lives on it, so as to avoid basing our society, our politics, and our ethics on it. Darwinism is an object lesson in how not to behave. It is the truth about how we came into existence, but it's something to be rebelled against.
You mentioned morals there, and if they don't come naturally to us, which I'm not sure whether that's what you're saying. I think morals do come naturally. I mean, we've talked about empathy and understanding. Have I missed that point?
No, that's exactly right. I mean, they come naturally to us, but originally, in a Darwinian sense, in this restricted way to kin and to potential reciprocators. But they've generalized. You could call it a sort of mistake in a way. I mean, it's a blessed mistake. It's a very good mistake, delightful mistake. But in a sense, you could call it a Darwinian mistake. But it's a very effective mistake, just as having lust when you know you can't have children is a Darwinian mistake. Just as adopting children is a Darwinian mistake. Nevertheless, these are all highly laudable, and they're very real, powerful emotions.
Thunder. I mean, for me, I always found the fascinating thing here is the balance between what is cultural and what is biological. And it's one of those very humbling. For instance, language is very plastic. It doesn't particularly matter what language you use. There is always language in the equation, but which one it is doesn't really matter. It's a very flat landscape. And then, of course, you go up to the things which have to be almost entirely biological. The things about looking after children. It's almost universally difficult for people to even imagine doing harm to children. It's that biologically wired into them. And then there's these sort of grey areas in between, which is, I think, that's where a lot of the religious people get their foothold in this sort of grey area between the two. I mean, things like, thou shalt not kill, lie, and so forth, those are biological almost requirements. If you kill more people than you're an extinct species. If you lie more than you actually communicate information, there's no point in language. But it's those fuzzy bits in between which I find in many ways the fascinating bits. Yeah.
Was that a question?
Oh, sorry. You wanted me to ask a question.
I thought you had a few in mind. Yes. So, I'm sorry. I was assuming you were asking a question, and I couldn't see where it was coming from. Do go on.
I thought you were just asking for some sort of input. No, it's
I think we may have lost Richard. Just 1 second. We'll see.
That'll teach me to do too much talking.
Yeah.
All worked perfectly fine when I was keeping quiet. I was going to make some comment about atheists wear blue, but
yes,
only on a Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's next for the Richard Dawkins Foundation?
Oh, well, we've got a lot of things on the go. The new version of the website, which the wonderful team in America has been working on very strenuously, completely rewritten the website a completely new way. And that's just been launched, and it seems to be doing extremely well. It's written in such a way that it can be expanded, and it can also accommodate other websites which might wish to use the same format, which might have some kind of something in common with us. So that's a big thing that's just on the go at the moment. We're still very involved with the clergy project, which is, as you know, rescuing clergy people, or giving them at least a place where they can go and discuss with each other, cry on each other's shoulders, discuss their problems. They've got big problems. They're very large now. We've got about 150 now, I understand, of clergy people who have lost their faith. They've become atheists, but they don't quite know how to escape from their way of life. I'm not seeing either of you. Are you hearing me?
We're hearing you perfectly.
Okay.
We're not seeing you, but rather than try and resolve the issue, we could end the call and restart it. That would probably help. If it will mean that we lose a couple of minutes.
Well, can the audience see us, or is it just we who can't see each other?
The
we
audience
just
appears
can't
to be able to see. Yeah, it's only you that we can't see. You could try turning your camera off and then back on. That
Can
occasionally does help.
Can the audience see me?
Nope.
Okay.
But they can hear you.
Okay. I'll turn it off and on again. I can now see me, and I can see Thunderfoot.
And I think that might be working. You did change briefly on the actual broadcast, but you're back to a spinning circle now. That's kind of annoying.
Our technical man is saying that he can restart the call in a couple of seconds. Shall we do that?
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Okay, Tony, can we end this call and can you restart it? Shall I end it, or I don't think it matters. We'll be back in a minute or so. Do bear with us. We'll just leave it as it is. Okay, I think we're back live. Looks as if we're not able to sort out Richard Dawkins' camera, but we certainly have his audio, so we'll carry on with that. Hopefully it will resolve itself. I can't remember what point we reached. Oh, we were talking about the website.
Yes, that's going very well. Then we were talking about the clergy project, and there are about 150 of these clergy people who are debating with each other and thinking about coming out. 3 or 4 of them have already come out and have landed on their feet, and that's going very well. And the Richard Dawkins Foundation is one of the partners involved in that, along with other people like Dan Dennett and Linda Lascola and Dan Barker. What else? We've got a partnership with Lou Appignani, and we've got a series of so-called Appignani lectures, which we're getting off the ground to promote secularism around the United States, and in the form of lectures. We're doing a fair number of videos, DVDs, vignettes, as we call them. These are small little sort of lecturettes, sort of 5-minute little lectures, which are supposed to bring out one particular point in science or something else, which can be used by teachers to sort of drop into their lectures. And they're kind of one-off points that are made by a lecturer. It might be me, it might be somebody else. We've got quite a few of those now.
So will you be also in, when you did the magical reality, that was almost a sort of a new format for very much embracing the new e-technology. So there were little apps and the such, like if you got the electronic form of the book that kids could use for almost interactive learning.
That's right. I mean, publishing is moving in that direction, obviously. And when my publishers had brought out the hardback, they independently commissioned a company, a specialist in making apps, to do an app version of the Magic of Reality. And it is the full book. You could think of it as an e-book, because it's all there, pictures and all. You can read your way right through the book. But there are also simulations, demonstrations, games, as you'd expect of an app. It's being sold as an app, but actually it's an e-book plus in a way.